On the 30th of June, 1908, something exploded in the sky over central Siberia. Nobody photographed it and nobody measured it. Tonight, 3 witnesses in the order they could speak, and in the end, what is missing matters most. Off we go. The nearest settlement was a small trading post called Vanavara, about 65 kilometers from the center. A man there named Semenov later described what he felt. He said the sky split in two and fire appeared above the forest, and that he felt a scorching heat. Then a strong blow threw him a few meters, and only then, meaning after all that and not before, came the sound. That order is not strange, it is physics. Light and heat cross a distance far faster than sound, so a big blast is seen and felt long before much earlier than it is heard. Semenov's account fits: fire, then heat, and only then the noise. Even the date arrives twice. The old Julian calendar was still in use there, so some records give the 17th of June and some the 30th. Both are right. An eyewitness, a person who saw an event happen and can describe it, is only as good as the record made of them. Semenov's words were written down in 1930, 22 years after the morning he was describing. That is a limit worth naming, not a criticism of him. Teams later built a list of roughly 700 accounts, including those of Evenki reindeer herders and of people living along the rivers. In the years that followed, in the long stretch after that list became the main human record, though some reports were printed in Siberian newspapers in 1908. Language Spotlight Part 1. Only then means after that and not before, first the heat and only then the sound. By the time looks back from a later moment at something already finished. By the time anyone reached the forest, 19 years had passed, and an eyewitness is a person who saw an event and can describe it. Careful English keeps that word for people. Machines do not see, they record. The second witness had already given its evidence long before anyone thought to ask. About 1,000 kilometers to the south at Irkutsk, a seismograph recorded the ground moving. Other machines, thousands of kilometers away, recorded it too. Later, converted to the scale we use today, those records match about magnitude 5. A machine wrote the event down as it happened, and what it wrote was a number. Then the air. A shock wave, the sudden push of air that travels out from a blast, spread from central Siberia and was picked up by pressure instruments across Europe. And as far away as Washington, D.C. a blast on this scale, meaning at this size, is not a local event. For several nights afterwards, night skies across northern Europe and Asia glowed, and people wrote of reading a newspaper outdoors at midnight. One loose thread. Several people reported bright nights before the 30th of June, and nothing can be caused by what comes after it. 2 answers have been put forward: a separate spell of very high clouds that shine at night, or dust running ahead of the body. Neither has been shown to be right. It is still not explained. So the machines gave a time, a place, and a measure of the shock wave. What they could not give was an object. No camera caught it. The energy has been modeled ever since and never measured. Published figures run from about 3 to 50 megatons. 4 modern models, run against the same records, agree on a narrower range, somewhere between 10 and 20. Machines gave the size. They could not give the story. Nobody stood at the center for 19 years, and that is less strange than it sounds. The place is far from any railway or town. Much of the route crosses swamp, which a party can cross only while it is frozen. And such a journey costs money. Leonid Kulik, who studied meteorites, tried in 1921 and never reached the center. By the time he stood in the fallen forest, in April 1927, 19 years had passed. What he found did not look like an impact at all. Near the center, across a few kilometers, the trees were still standing stripped bare of branches and bark. Stripped bare means everything on the surface has been taken off. Visitors called it the telegraph pole forest. Further out, the trunks lay flat, pointing away from the center. One idea accounts for both, that is, it explains both. A wave coming from straight above meets an upright trunk end-on, so almost nothing pushes it sideways. Further out, the same wave meets the ground at a low angle and lays the trees flat. Still, Kulik looked for his crater. Near the center are round wet hollows, and he read them as the scar he had come to find. Through 1928 and 1929, his teams drained and dug one out 32 meters wide, while melting ground ice kept filling the pit back in. At the bottom, they found an old tree stump. That hollow had been plain forest floor before 1908. Kulik went to find a hole. What he brought back was evidence against one. In the years that followed, from the late 1950s into the 1960s, survey teams walked the site plot by plot, noting which way each trunk lay. Trees came down over roughly 2,000 square kilometers, though that is where at least some fell. The ground laid flat is far smaller. Seen whole, the shape is not a circle. It is a butterfly about 70 kilometers across. A burst at one fixed point prints a circle. Something moving fast, dragging its own wave, prints two wings. Language Spotlight Part 2. A shock wave is the sudden push of air that travels out from a blast. You hear one, but you feel it first. On this scale means at this size or level. A blast on this scale is picked up thousands of kilometers away. To strip something bare is to take everything off its surface. And account for means to explain so that one idea covers the facts, not to prove. So, what accounts for the trees left standing at the center? Put the three witnesses together. People felt heat before they heard anything. Machines wrote the shock down as it happened. The forest kept a direction, a shape, and no hole. That gap is what any answer has to account for. Models of a stone body coming in at an angle show it breaking apart 8 to 13 kilometers up, so its energy goes into the air, not into rock. Flat trees and no crater is what a burst on this scale, high in the air, leaves behind. One absence closes a question, a second keeps one open. In a century of expeditions, no clear piece of the body has ever been recovered. A comet of ice and dust would leave almost nothing behind. A stony asteroid would normally leave fragments. When a much smaller body broke up in 2013, pieces were picked up within days. Most researchers now favor an asteroid, but that comes from modeling, not from anything anyone has held. Here is what I take from this. There is no picture of the blast. No one in range was carrying a camera. Every image labeled Tunguska shows what was left. The clearest was taken in May 1929, and by the time it was taken, the forest had been growing back for 21 years. Pictures were later made from the air, because from inside the forest you cannot see the shape. So they are evidence of 1929 and of the 1930s. When an old photograph moves you, ask what year it was taken and what the years between did to the place. 4 questions. What did our eyewitness feel before he heard anything? Why were the trees at the center left standing, stripped bare? What did Kulik find at the bottom of the pit? And the one that matters, What does the missing crater account for, and what does the missing fragment leave open? Today, the site is a nature reserve and the forest has largely grown back. Listen once more without stopping, then a third time, saying the phrases aloud. The full list is in the description. Subscribe for the next one. The images here are AI-generated, not photographs of the real site. Next time, a different case and a different kind of evidence.